Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely fascinating. We are looking at an exclusive external strategy report put together by the firm Disruptivity. Now, just to be clear, this isn't some PR puff piece from the company itself. No, this is a hard-hitting strategic roadmap that analyzes the explosive history, the present reality, and the potential future of an AI software company called Lovable. The report basically converges all these future scenarios into a proposed battle plan, detailing exactly how Lovable needs to maneuver to not just survive, but literally dominate in a landscape filled with absolute titans like OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our agenda for today. 1. The vibe coding revolution. 2. Their meteoric rise and valuation. 3. The competitive threat landscape. 4. The great enterprise pivot. And 5. The autonomous software future. Starting off with Section 1, the vibe coding revolution. To really get what this company is all about, we have to understand this massive paradigm shift they're riding, which is known as vibe coding. According to the Disruptivity report, vibe coding is basically the process of taking incredibly complex software engineering and abstracting it all away into simple, natural language interfaces. So you bypass traditional code completely. Instead, you just use plain English prompts, and the AI generates real, functional, full-stack web applications, complete with front ends and back ends. It's essentially this magic trick that suddenly empowers the 99% of people out there who have absolutely zero technical coding skills to become actual software creators. It's a total game changer. But the roots of the shift are actually pretty humble. As the report points out, Lovable was founded in late 2023 over in Stockholm by CEO Anton Osaka and CTO Fabian Hedin. It actually evolved out of an open-source project Osaka had launched earlier that year called GPT Engineer. Well, they very quickly commercialized this open-source tool, aimed it squarely at non-technical users, and basically set the stage for a period of growth that is, frankly, just hard to wrap your head around. Which brings us to Section 2, meteoric rise and valuation. The Disruptivity report analyzes a projected mid-2026 valuation for Lovable of $6.6 billion. Look, achieving a multi-billion-dollar valuation is rare enough on its own, but hitting this massive number at the blistering speed Lovable has, that requires a fundamental structural shift in the market. The sheer velocity we're talking about here is just absurd. Let's trace it out. They were founded in November 2023. By December 2024, they rebranded to Lovable and opened up public access. Literally just 2 months later, in February 2025, they hit a $1.8 billion Series A valuation. By November 2025, they were hitting $200 million in annual recurring revenue, processing something like 100,000 new projects every single day. And that entire trajectory leads right up to that $6.6 billion valuation mark projected for mid-2026. They literally went from a rapid growth startup to an absolute powerhouse almost overnight. Now for Section 3, the competitive threat landscape. So Lovable is operating at this highly volatile convergence point, and it's attracting existential threats from all sides. On one hand, you've got these agile AI assistants like Cursor and Replit. They're fantastic tools for sure, but they mostly target professional developers. Then you've got the absolute heavyweights, the frontier model labs like OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic. And finally, as Lovable tries to move upmarket, they are on a direct collision course with legacy no-code platforms. We're talking about incumbents like Mendex and OutSystems, who already hold the keys to those massive Fortune 500 IT budgets because of their deep, entrenched compliance frameworks. And the pressure is only getting more intense. The strategy report points out some major market events, like OpenAI targeting an IPO, and Google launching autonomous agents like Gemini Spark. And because Lovable relies so heavily on frontier models from these exact same companies, they face some very real vulnerabilities here. They're exposed to upstream API rate limits, potential compute bottlenecks, and just the overarching threat that these hyperscalers could wake up one day and decide to build competing features natively. Let's move to Section 4, the great enterprise pivot. Now, what's really interesting here is how Disruptivity frames this dramatic juxtaposition. They argue that to survive and defend its revenue, Lovable has to completely pivot. They need to transition from being a fun, consumer magic trick focused on rapid prototyping for solo tinkerers into an impenetrable enterprise operating system. See, as they target larger corporate clients, the tolerance for unverified AI code drops to zero. No exceptions. They absolutely have to build a sovereign agentic fabric that's defined by deep IT governance and automated code verification. And to do that, Lovable has to build out what might honestly seem like boring corporate moats. We're talking about native DevSecOps integrations, like their partnership with Wiz for security scanning. They need legacy systems integration, which explains their partnership with Proficient. They need strict SOC 2 compliance, and they need guaranteed data residency backed by sovereign infrastructure, like what they're doing with Molnet. These aren't just extra features. Disruptivity argues that these are the vital survival moats required to actually unlock those massive Fortune 500 budgets. In fact, the report delivers this incredibly direct, hard-hitting assessment. It says, Lovable is rapidly transitioning from a consumer magic trick, vibe coding, into a foundational operating system for the autonomous enterprise. Their true ambition here, as the strategy reveals, isn't just to be a cool tool for developers to play with. It's to fundamentally replace legacy systems integrators. The whole shebang. And finally, Section 5, the autonomous software future. Let's see how this builds across their 5-year roadmap, because it gets pretty wild. Years 1 and 2 are totally dedicated to securing that enterprise trust, proving out their DevSecOps integrations, and shifting their pricing models. But years 3 to 5, that is where it gets really interesting. The strategy calls for Lovable to develop self-healing code bases. Basically, background AI agents that continuously monitor applications, patch security flaws, and fix bugs without a single human lifting a finger. The ultimate goal is to power zero headcount software companies. Think about that for a second. But this strategic identity shift presents a massive pricing dilemma. I mean, if your product's entire purpose is to replace human developers with autonomous agents, then charging your clients by the human seat, which is the traditional software as a service model, well, that artificially caps your revenue. As corporate headcounts shrink, so does your income. Disruptivity points out that Lovable absolutely must transition toward monetizing by agent hours or maybe taking a percentage of the massive operational savings they generate for these companies. Because if AI eventually makes writing code infinitely abundant and essentially free, the real economic value is going to migrate away from just generating code and toward things like trust, governance, and distribution. Lovable is positioning for this by aiming to orchestrate the entire business lifecycle. For example, they've already integrated with a company called Dula via the Model Context Protocol, which allows for seamless, autonomous LLC formation right inside their platform. They aren't just a builder anymore. They're evolving into a holistic micro SaaS foundry. So, the crucial question we're left with from this Disruptivity strategy report is this. If AI makes the actual creation of software infinitely abundant and virtually free, how will your business define its value in the era of the autonomous corporate entity? It's a profound shift, right? Moving from just writing code to architecting entire autonomous systems. I really hope this explainer gave you a clear, structured look into the strategic roadmap of one of AI's fastest-growing players. Thanks so much for joining us, and as always, keep learning.